Namaste, namaskaram, vanakkam, namo namaha. Let's have a little fun today with the classic tale about the tortoise or the turtle and the hare. Obviously, one being slow, the other being quick. So, obviously, in life, there's a time to go slow and there's a time to go quick. Now, we want to go slow without becoming lazy or slothful, and we want to be able to move swiftly without being erratic. Now, in the Hindu yoga dharma, we call the turtle Kurma, and the rabbit is Sasha. And in fact, the Kurma or the turtle is highly revered as an avatar of Mahavishnu. And in the Hatha Yoga, which remember, folks, are the Hindu devotional postures taught by Hindus and not for a fee. In the Hatha Yoga, there's a Kurmasana, a turtle posture. So let's look at the striking differences between the turtle or the tortoise and the rabbit, and then liken this to the Hindu culture and religion, obviously, and then typically Western culture and specifically Christianity. Now, number one, they're very ancient creatures. The tortoise goes back 260 million years, even older than the dinosaurs. Whereas the rabbits, old but not quite as old, go back 56 million years. Obviously, the Hindu Yoga Dharma is one of the oldest religions, certainly the oldest of the major religions, and by that we mean those that are most well known and highly populated. Never dismissing, of course, the indigenous people around the world who date their cultures back thousands and thousands of years. Hinduism goes back, we don't know how far, thousands of years BCE, whereas Christianity obviously is less than really 1,500 years in a fairly widespread recognition. Now, turtles, Kurma, and Sasha, the rabbits, they're basically found all over the world except Antarctica. So too now, contemporary culture, you find all the religions of the world are pretty much known around the world, and certainly Hinduism is, and certainly Christianity is as well. Now, the Kurmas, the turtles, the tortoises, live to be sometimes 100 years old. Long life. Whereas the rabbits live to be about 9 years. And obviously, the tortoise, the turtle, moves slowly, whereas the rabbit can move very quickly. So let's look for a moment at two different mindsets. The one mindset of moving slow in a methodical manner, and the other is moving in a quick manner, which sometimes can be rushed and can sometimes be dishonest. Get quick rich scams, for example, I mean, they're ubiquitous. Remember the old saying that if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. So that mindset of getting rich quick, getting certifications quick, like a so-called 200-hour professional yoga certification, whereas in the Hindu Yoga Dharma, everything is taken slowly in a methodical procedure, as anything in life really worth having is. It takes dedicated years of practice to become accomplished in anything, in the arts, in life, in a sport, academic studies, and certainly within the Hindu Yoga Dharma, the Hindu religion, Hinduism, we see this slow, methodical procedure carried out in every aspect of the culture, from the arts to the dance, to the religious life itself, to music. Individuals study generally from young for decades upon decades before achieving mastery. So like the turtle, they're in no hurry. They move slowly, but they keep going in a methodical, pade, step-by-step process, or thread by thread, sutra by sutra process. And in Hinduism, we often have stories that admittedly go over the top, but they're to prove a point. That nothing worth having really comes that quickly. As the saying goes, easy come, easy go, right? For example, there's a classic story in Chandogya Upanishad where Indra and Varochana study with their guru Prajapati. And Indra, even though 32 years is a long time, especially in today's standard, Varochana studies with Prajapati for 32 years and believes that all of this is only about the external and the physical body, and he's never heard from again. Indra, on the other hand, becomes dissatisfied. It's a wonderful read. Becomes dissatisfied, and after repeated comings and goings, eventually says 101 years before becoming the chief of the Devatas, Indra. So there's a lot to be said for this slow, methodical process to really gain expertise. So Kurma truly represents that. And again, this is why there is no reference in Hinduism to the rabbit, Sasha. Contrast that to Christianity, for example, where basically all one needs to do is recite a quick passage and instant salvation, if you will. Now, another interesting thing to look at with the turtles is that they reach a sexual maturity in 5 to 30 years, whereas the rabbit can reach maturity in 4 months. That's why they're so prolific at creating immense families. So there's something to be said, again, for taking things slow, but not too slow, and fast when necessary, but not fast in the sense of being dishonest. There's a classic story in the Hindu yoga dharma about Ganesha, who moves slow, obviously has an elephant head, and his swiftly moving brother Muruga, who's the youthful loving warrior, rides the peacock. Ganesha rides little Mushika, the mouse. In this classic story, their parents, Shiva and Parvati, give them a task, a challenge. Whoever can go around the universe quickest will gain the prize. A humble prize of a mango. Imagine. So Muruga, of course, impetuous, the warrior spirit, takes off on Mowiel the peacock. But what does Ganesha do? Slower but much wiser. He simply walks around his Mata Pita, his mother and father, claiming they are the whole universe to him, which a child is to their parents. And in the Hindu culture, we always revere Mata Pita, mother, father, as our first gurus. Classic story within Hinduism. Now let's look at some cliches that remind us of the wisdom of taking things in a slow, methodical, step by step, pade pade, sutra by sutra, thread by thread manner. From the Taoist religion, nature does not hurry, but everything is accomplished. Now some anonymous quotations. Wisdom arises naturally as we slow down and notice what is already there. In a meditation, once the thought came, we're always a step ahead of the divine. It's like walking ahead with our shadow behind. If we could just stop long enough, it would overcome us. The slow philosophy is taking the time to do things properly and thereby enjoying them more. The trees that are slow to grow bear the best fruit. There's something for all married couples or those thinking of marriage. You shouldn't rush something you want to last forever. Yogaswami, a mystic from Sri Lanka, said, no hurry, no sorry, no worry. So take a little time out. Pause. Take a breath. Isn't that what people recommend during times of stress? Breathe. Pranayama, the Hindu science of breathing. Remember, breath is our first and our last food. Hence, the rishis, when they developed the Sanskrit language, which is a religious language of Hinduism, they use the word ana, A-N-A, for respiration, our first and last food. Take a breath. Take a deep inhale. And exhale, relax. In the Vedic scriptures, the world's oldest living scriptures, followed by countless people today, we read of the Ashvin twins. Beautiful metaphor. They're called the twin physicians. And who are they, or what are they? The in-breath and the out-breath, as well as the two nostrils. As you'll notice, Hindus developed alternate nostril breathing. As we go even deeper now, using the breath to harmonize the left and the right brains, the masculine and the feminine nature within all of us. Remember, biologically, yes, there are two genders in the human world, not in the animal world. There are many non-binary animals. So for all those fanatics who say that there are only two genders, well, and also believe that quote-unquote God, a word that Hindus should not be using, of course, it's a Christian term, quote-unquote God created everything, well then obviously there's many, many animals and plants that are hermaphrodites, that are non-binary. But of course as humans, except in rare, rare exceptions, it is a binary, biologically, but importantly, mentally and emotionally, there's a non-binary or a binary spectrum. Because we all have within us masculine and feminine traits. This is left and right brain. Fully studied in the Hindu yoga, religious, spiritual, scientific, philosophical lifestyle. Living which stimulates this inner realization, which we term Kundalini Yoga, as we harmonize the Pingala and the Ida, the masculine and the feminine brains. Alternate nostril breathing. Taking a breath, using breath in a very conscious way to calm our first and last food. And just as an interesting exploration, the Hindu rishis realize the wisdom of food starting with breath, ana, A-N-A. And you will notice that A-N-A are in many Sanskrit Hindu terms for different types of food. Obviously respiration, ana. Physical food, ana, A-N-N-A. We pray, Annapurane, Sarapurane. Full of food, full of truth. There is asana, physical postures. There's mana, the mind itself. There's bhavana, the emotional nature. There's atmana, the soul food. So we have respiration, we have earth food, we have physical food, mental food, emotional food, and soul food, if you will. Slow down, take time. And all things will be revealed from within. Again, the slow philosophy is taking the time to do things properly and thereby enjoying more. And wisdom arises naturally as we slow down and notice what is already there. Wisdom, the ability to discern difference, not sameness. Not a coincidence that logic, reasoning, judgment are the first two signs of a state of calm wisdom, which Hindus call samadhi. In the classic Yoga Sutras of the Saiva Hindu Guru Patanjali, he clearly, thread by thread, just like the tortoise, step by step, thread by thread, weaves this wonderful fabric of a religious life. Remember, that word means to yoke, to bind, to link. Just as yoga, to yoke. Just as religio, to bind, to link. Just as dharma, to hold. Humans and our animal friends trying to figure out what holds them together, what makes their life work from birth to death, and as Hindus believe, round and round we go, because life is a circle. Linear thinking is necessary for our minds of creativity, in the sense of creation, creating things, but it's the circular mind, it's the snake-like mind, that is the creative mind, that is the mind of nature, that moves in a rhythmic pattern, sometimes dancing slowly, sometimes dancing very fast. And our two friends here show us this. There's a time to move slow. There's a time to hop through life. Now, in the Hindu Yoga Dharma, we also venerate not only anthropomorphic spirit beings like Ganesha, Muruga, Shiva Shakti, Krishna, Vishnu Lakshmi, Hanuman, Sitaram, Durga Lakshmi, Saraswati, Kali, Parvati. We also do recognize the Atmana that flows through the animals as well. We have animal vahanas, or vehicles, depicted within Hinduism and in murti form, or image form, right inside of our temples. You'll see an image of a mouse, a bull, a peacock. So we learn from them. We learn from Bhumi Mata. Now we could end with a phrase: take your life seriously, but not too seriously. Know when to move slowly, know when to move quickly, but avoid the extremes of either one. Avoid becoming lazy and slothful, and avoid becoming so erratic and stressed out. And we always end with going from untruth to truth. This is what we do as humans. We may arrive at a conclusion through logic and reasoning, and that conclusion may stay steadfast, or it might change in the future. But we have to be willing to recognize it, and also be willing to change when necessary, as we go from untruth to truth. Asato ma sadgamaya. Humbly admitting our ignorance in many areas of life, lack of knowledge. Two different things, actually. Be wary of those. Lack of knowledge is one thing. Ignorance is something else. Ignorance is the conscious choice to ignore. Just like today's so-called yoga that completely ignores the fact that real yoga is all about the Hindu religion, one, taught by Hindus, two, not for a fee, three. Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya. And finally, recognize the circular nature of life itself, and the immortality of life itself. That's why Hindus use the term eternal, or sanatan, recognizing that, not that Hinduism is eternal, it's recognizing that life is eternal. Remember, everything that has a beginning also has an end. So a circle is continuous. So we recognize the immortality of life itself. as the essential energy and light and heat, the science of life, as it just transforms and changes form. Ekam Sadvipra Bhuravarante. A unified existence, pure existence coming out of the no-thingness, of which we cannot speak. And Hindus recognize this. Speaking, Mauna Vakya Parabrahman, the supreme experience of Brahman, which is not God, folks. Brahman is a neutral term for the greater forces of love and light and energy, if you will, Satchitananda, Jyoti, Shakti, Ananda, Shanti. But the supreme experience is found how? Through the oxymoron of Mauna Vakya, silent speech. Notice how many of our animal friends live their life pretty much in silence. Yatovacho nivartante aprapis manasa saha. These realizations are beyond speech, beyond even the very mind that seeks to comprehend them. Hence the term Atmana for the inner essence, not the mind. Temporarily inhabiting the body, mind, emotion complex, but is experienced, in a sense, unconsciously in deep sleep, consciously in contemplation, Raja Yoga, Dharana Dhyana, and certainly at physical death. This immortality of life itself. Creation just is very difficult for the mind to comprehend. It just is. Science concurs. For energy can neither be created nor destroyed, hence no creator. Lots of beginnings and creations within this creation, but it just is. Even using the word creation is a little misleading, because it just is. Hence we end by saying, Mrityorma amritam gamaya. This immortality. And lead us ultimately into a sense of a loving, blissful peace, Ananda Shanti. Jyoti Shakti Ananda Shanti. Love, light, and energy, Om. This are we with emotions, mind, and body. Om. Thank you, Kurma. Thank you, Sasha. Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.